In franchise history. The other time, 1974. Put on the polyester. Get dancing. They're the lone undefeated team left. Yeah. And oh, by the way, you can bet they're going to be 7-0 because they're hosting Houston next week. And then after that, it'll be a Thursday night game with Green Bay, so that's going to be a very interesting game. Brownies fall to 3-3, although if you look at their three losses, Kansas City, the Chargers, and Arizona. Cards are plus 125. Cards were getting 3 points from a very banged-up Cleveland team, and the over came in as well. But you can see last two, giving up some yards, some points, some touchdowns. This is not the same team that swarmed Justin Fields when they played the Bears. We say hello and welcome. Nice to have you in here on HQ. I'm Eric Casillas with Jonathan Jones, Ryan Wilson, and this season Crown Royal is supporting the local communities that serve us off the field at kickoffwithcrown.com. So, I'll start with you, JJ. My dad has said since I was a little kid, good and lucky is a hard combination to beat. Playing cards or whatever in the driveway and make a shot in basketball. Good and lucky is a hard combination to beat. Right now, you look at Arizona. They've been good. They've been lucky. They've been both, right? And they seem to sort of jumped out of nowhere. Why are they the lone undefeated team left? The biggest reason is?
Well, they're really whipping teams, right? And they were taking care of business. They were beating the teams that they were supposed to beat, but then they faced the Rams and they whooped them, and then they faced the Cleveland Browns, who injuries have caught up to Cleveland. And we showed the graphic there earlier about 0-2 the last couple of games. Well, they're missing Jedrick Wills. Nick Chubb has been banged up, and missing Nick Chubb today was a huge loss for the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, Baker Mayfield has been battling with that partially torn labrum, and that just probably got worse today. But as far as the Arizona Cardinals go, when you talk about luck for them, because we know and understand that they are a good football team, and I don't know if they're a great or elite football team, but they are very solidly a very, very good football team. They've been lucky with injuries. Yes, they had the Max Williams injury, a very serious knee injury to him, and so they just decided today to go 11 personnel. A lot of times they didn't even have a tight end in there, and now they just traded for Zach Ertz, 5th-round pick, and a corner that they sent to the Philadelphia Eagles. But they missed Rodney Hudson today. Okay, they had a backup center. There was a problem with a couple of center-quarterback exchanges and shotgun, but they were able to survive that. Outside of that, there haven't really been any major injuries for the Arizona Cardinals so far this year. And as we know, the teams in the Super Bowl almost year in, year out, invariably, are the healthiest teams in the NFL, more or less. And so right now, the last undefeated team has been one of the healthiest teams in the NFL, and that's the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, they also got a missed field goal at the end of a game in Minnesota, which is very makeable, 36 yards, just game a win. Again, you got to be good, and they're good. And you got to, sometimes it's got to fall your way, and it's fallen their way. And when you're good and lucky, it's hard to beat. Also, the quarterback's been pretty good, and he's been lucky to avoid injury. But some of that luck seems to be by design. Ryan, Kyler Murray doesn't have 40 yards rushing in any game this year. Something like people would go, no, really, he does not have 40 yards rushing in any game this year. Is that by design? What are you seeing with Kyler Murray? What do you like about it?
Yeah, you mentioned that during the telecast. I was exactly blown away at how much that stat is held up. 7 attempts, 6 rushing yards today. This is all about Kyler in the pocket, and he makes plays behind the line of scrimmage. He can buy time with his legs, but he's throwing to guys, number one, that were wide open in this Browns game, which is sort of hard to believe given how good this Browns defense has been. But also, it speaks to A.J. Green stepping up after not working out in Cincinnati and leaving there last year. It talks about Dre Hopkins balling out and making plays. Christian Kirk. Rondale Moore has been a godsend this year. He's doing what Andy Isabella didn't do 2 years ago when they drafted him, and they didn't even need him today. So I think it's all about what Kyler Murray has been able to bring to the table behind the line of scrimmage, his ability to buy time. He's incredibly hard to get a hold of, and he's just making play after play after play. And I'll say this, EK, we talk about this all the time. There's a real lesson here if you're Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury, because I feel like Kyler Murray has, to a large extent, saved their jobs. It was Josh Rosen under Steve Keim, traded for him. The next year you come back and take Kyler Murray first overall. There's a lot of risk associated with that. It has worked out in this case, but I think that the underlying takeaway is incredibly hard to evaluate quarterbacks. He got this one.
They had the guts to pull the plug after 1 year on the 10th overall pick in the draft and say, we're not going to throw good years after bad. We don't think he's our guy, and he wasn't their guy. And so they went quarterback in the top 10 back-to-back years. I'm trying to think, maybe it has happened before, but that may be the only time off the top of my head I can think of somebody do that. That's a gutsy move. I mean, if that doesn't work out, I mean, that's like when the Lions used to draft a wide receiver every year. But a quarterback is even more high profile, so good for them. Meanwhile, Cleveland, JJ, they're now 3-3. Animal House is one of my favorite all-time movies, old school comedy, and at the end, Kevin Bacon, everything's going crazy around him, Billies are burning, and he's like, remain calm, all is well. Like, can I say remain calm, all is well if I'm a Cleveland fan? Can I sell you on the idea that we're fine? Look, I know we're 3-3 and we're only 500, but we're all banged up and we're going to eventually get guys back, and our losses are to Kansas City on the road, at the Chargers on the road, and today we were exceptionally banged up, and we lost to a team that's undefeated. Remain calm all as well. Are you buying that?
Yeah, I am. I am, because they, as you mentioned, they had the loss to Kansas City. It was a 4-point loss. They had the lead. They probably shouldn't have lost that game. Okay, you lost to Kansas City in week 1. If that game were played right now, you'd like to think that you would beat them. You lost to the Chargers in a game that you very easily could have won. That game could have been either way. This game, you got your butts whooped by a better Arizona Cardinals team. And yes, injuries are starting to pile up for them. Jedrick Wills, again, he's been sort of questionable. They haven't really understood if he's going to be able to go in games or not, and sort of been a weekend decision. Wouldn't call him a game time decision, but a weekend decision. And then they were missing Nick Chubb. And we know that running game is the engine for this team. They don't ever really tell Baker Mayfield, hey, go out there and win it with your arm, Bake. They don't say that. Jarvis Landry has been on the short-term IR. Odell Beckham hasn't been able to play all of the games, and there's still not really that connection between Odell Beckham and Baker Mayfield, despite those two getting along. And we're going to see what this injury with Odell Beckham is, but I would not at all be surprised if another NFL team were banged up at the wide receiver position and they look over to Cleveland and finally pick up the phone and give Cleveland a call and say, hey, what would you take for Odell Beckham Jr.? I could see that happening by November the 2nd, and I know that Cleveland would listen to that. So when I look at this Cleveland team, that's what I see from the Cleveland Browns, a team that absolutely needs to, they're going to be okay, and the schedule is softening up, but they've taken their lumps.
Yeah, and they're going to be okay, because here's the thing in the AFC. What do you have? You're going to be Cincinnati, Kansas City, or the Chargers, and the Colts, and that's basically it. That's your competition for a wild card spot, assuming you don't win the division. And I like before the season the Browns to win the division completely healthy. We've seen Baltimore really play well the last few weeks, starting with Lamar Jackson. But for the Browns, it's a matter of getting healthy. We just talked about how luck is so incredibly important to having success. Getting injured is through no fault of their own. That's football. Baker has to continue to play through that shoulder injury. He had to come out for a moment, came back in. Finally, at the end, they took him out for Case Keenum because that game was over. But I still feel okay. I'm with you, JJ, about where the Browns are. Kevin Stefanski is the coach of the year for a reason. Baker Mayfield's having success with that running game, helping to balance what he's had. Didn't have the running game on Sunday. And to Odell Beckham's, your conversation about him, he's got to play better. Yep. I know he's coming off the ACL. I know it's less than 12 months since. But when Donovan Peoples-Jones is balling out and you don't even know that Odell Beckham's on the field, that's a problem for an offense that has injuries, EK.
Okay. Well, look, Arizona, they're probably going to be playing on Thursday night, 10 days from now. If they beat Houston at home, they're going to be undefeated, looking at Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be a lot of fun. Cleveland, they're just trying to get healthy and just sort of like just hold serve here until they can get their guys back, because that is a very talented roster. All right, it was not a great game, day of games today, until we had maybe the wildest 3 minutes of the year. Wait till you see how it went down.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.